For more, we're joined from Washington by Capitol News Connection's congressional reporter Patrick Terpstra. Patrick, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Senator Harry Reid said there is no deal until there is a done deal, meaning it's not over yet. Both houses still have to vote on this, and it has to be signed by the president. Could this bill be defeated?
Absolutely. We know that right now all of the Senate and House leaders from both parties are on board. The president has blessed this, but we don't know about rank and file from either the Senate or the House. And first thing this morning, we know that the Senate Democrats will be meeting together to sort of go over the minutia of this. We expect the same thing to happen with Republicans and then the same thing to happen over on the House side. But we talked to a lot of skeptical Democrats and Republicans for their own reasons that have basically said, listen, we need some time to really get into the meat of this and figure out if this is something we can support.
The deal will form a bipartisan committee to recommend deficit reduction measures. What can we expect from that committee?
Well, we know that the committee, at least in this framework that we've seen, will be made up of an equal number of Republicans and Democrats, and that they would essentially have to find upwards of about $1.5 trillion in additional cuts between now and Thanksgiving. So they would meet together, they would look at everything, apparently. Everything would be on the table, and that by Thanksgiving they would have to go to Congress with these recommendations. If that joint committee were to fail to come up with cuts, then we have some automatic triggers, as they are called, that would go into effect. Those would be immediate cuts to defense as well as to other programs, including Medicare.
So, you know, raising taxes and tax increases have really been a big issue in this debate so far. Could we really expect that committee to recommend those so-called revenue raisers, as you said, or tax increases?
Well, it depends who you ask. We heard from the president this weekend saying that this is something he would like to see on the table, that being revenue increases. Republicans have said absolutely not. But again, this committee would be made up of both Republicans and Democrats. So certainly that would be something that we'll be watching to see exactly what this committee has to say about revenue increases.
The president said that this was a messy debate. It went on far too long. So in November, could we at least see part of this debate resurrected, albeit without the threat of a default?
Yes, and that's a major point here, is that the threat of default would not be here, again, because of those automatic triggers that would be in effect. But absolutely, this is a debate that's going to play out again. Where should we cut, and should we raise taxes? And right before Thanksgiving and Christmas. So this is something that will go away for a few months, but then we will be right back here at this debate.
So if this is a done deal, the debt ceiling will be raised through 2012. Why is that such an important issue for Democrats?
Well, Democrats say that it's important because they want to make sure that the markets are settled between now and 2013. They don't want the markets to essentially have to worry about default again right away. They said if you had a short-term plan that would be the case, that the markets would say, okay, well, we're okay for now, but will the United States default again in a few months? So that's the Democrats' argument. Republicans say that this is something that the president does not want to deal with in the midst of his 2012 re-election campaign, not to mention a number of vulnerable Senate Democrats that are up for re-election. So those two reasons combined, somewhere in there is the reason that they did not want to have to deal with this so soon after this summer.
With the news last night, we got some reaction from the Asian markets, doing pretty well so far this morning. Also, world markets responding, welcoming the news of this deal being formed and made. Could we still see a downgrade of credit and bond ratings?
Well, the sad thing is, yes, we still do have that threat looming over the United States because of this messy debate, exactly what the president said, because this is something that has gone on for so long now. And really, this is the first time in our nation's history that there has been a question about whether we might default, whether we would repay those bills. So something a lot of people will be watching is, will the markets be settled now that there appears to be a compromise, though again, at this point, we're not even sure that this is something that can make it through both the House and the Senate. But even if it does, even if come Tuesday there is a plan in place, we could still see our credit in jeopardy.
This by far is not over yet. Patrick Terpstra from Capitol News Connection. Patrick, thank you so much for your time this morning.
You bet. Thanks for having me.